last night. I know both of you boys were invested in the card over in the States, so we'll start there. Conor Benn was back in action against Peter Dobson. Josh, you want to start us off on that performance? What did you make of Benn?
Sure thing. I actually thought it was a pretty decent fight at times, and there were some big shots landed by both, and it had some pretty high point moments within the overall fight. I thought it was a story, though, of Conor Benn doing a lot more than Dobson, and despite Dobson having those moments, yeah, he was just a little too reluctant, and I don't even think from the standpoint of him fearing throwing, it just seemed to be not a ton of urgency from him in a good bit of those rounds, though he did have some pretty solid moments at times. And you could tell that when he would actually put his punches together, when he would actually throw punches, he could find success. I believe it was the third or fourth round where he was really catching Conor Benn with some pretty hefty shots, and Benn showed some resolve as well. But it was, as I mentioned, all Conor Benn. He was doing the majority of the leading for the entirety of the fight. Dobson showed that, hey, he is a game fighter, and you could throw him in there with some other guys in or around kind of this level or whatnot, and could make things pretty interesting, but just not nearly enough from him to actually put forth the type of effort that would have made it a little bit more challenging on the scorecards. And that's what we ultimately saw. I believe one of the judges only had him winning one round. But I will say that for Conor Benn, he has kind of been out there on this tour now trying to get his name reestablished along with that buzz. So it'll be interesting to kind of see where he goes from here. The verdict, I guess you can say, is still kind of out, but we'll be able to really find out if we see him in there against one of the top level guys that we do expect to be kind of one of the next big fighters there in or around 147 pounds. But for him coming here to the U.S., I think overall, pretty solid effort from his point.
Yeah. Alex, you got anything to add there?
Conor Benn expected to be, one of the top welterweights. Especially, he has a big following in the UK. You saw that he was trying to make big fights. 2 attempts to get that Chris Eubanks matchup, never materialized. Seems to not be able to fight in the UK, so he's on a US tour, which I back. I think that's great. Come over to the US, try to get a fan base there, become a worldwide star. However, fighting his last fight, 154, decision, he looked pretty decent. Now with Peter Dobson, undefeated yet unknown, was not impressive. I think that's two straight, subpar performances back to back. That's not going to get the job done. He mentions he wants the big fights. He wants to fight, for titles with Mario Barrios. He mentions boots from time to time. He even throws in a Bud Crawford, Earl Spence as well, seldomly. So, doing these type of performances, bringing in that type of crowd, that's not going to get the job done. I think his fighting style is great. I enjoy watching it. However, you saw he had trouble with Peter Dobson's right hand. It looked like he was going to overwhelm Peter at first. Peter was nervous the whole time. It felt like, a lot of leg shakes, a lot of repetitive comebacks when it came to the press conference. And even in the beginning, seemed like a couple shots had him a little gun shy. Peter was allowed to settle, and you saw he was able to land on Conor throughout the fight. I thought it was competitive, but clear Conor Benn win. I saw a little bit of outrage about it being 11-1, 10-2. I had a 10-2. If you give Peter Dobson 3 rounds, that's cool. But clear win for Conor. But yeah, obviously there still needs to be some building. And, I think it's going to have to be a nice name to go ahead and get Buzz back, because going 10, 12 rounds with I think the guy's name was Orozco and now Peter Dobson, that's not going to get it buzzing how he had people buzzing after the first round KO of Samuel Vargas, after the destruction of Chris Algieri. So yeah, Conor Benn, get your shit together, because I think you have a very big opportunity to blow up and also to bring more to the boxing game.
Yeah, quite interesting. Before we came on, that you both were saying you were both invested in the Conor Benn fight, and I had actually put out a tweet earlier on yesterday saying like, which fight are you more interested in event wise overall, that one or the Buet Bartsy and Aziz card over here in the UK? What's a good British title fight? And that was probably the better card, but there wasn't that many people that actually responded to it as such. But like the people that did, it was kind of like, Buet and Aziz, obviously not bothered about Conor Benn. But I think it's quite interesting to hear the Americans' perspective. I think he's a fan-friendly fighter, and he probably doesn't have such a bad mark against his name like he does over here in the UK, maybe amongst fans. But he can't deny that his marketability is right up there. He's obviously got the famous father that he's got that Benn name, so that is obviously going to generate interest. I think he's got to work himself back into a fan-friendly favorite over in the UK, and he might never even get there. People might always just want him to lose. But yeah, it was quite interesting just to see who'd be most interested in which card last night. I was more invested in the Buatsi and Aziz event, so I had them both on at one point, and then I think at the start of Benn Dobson, it looked like he was going to possibly steamroll him at some point. So I kind of like turned it off, thinking it's not going to last too much longer. And then I was keeping an eye on X. So then I saw people were saying that Dobson's getting back into this. It's a good fight. So I was like, I was quite surprised. But yeah, I think you've nailed it on the head there, Alex. He probably does need to perform better. He was expected to beat Dobson last night. The guy before, and he was probably supposed to knock him out as well, and he hasn't done. And obviously, naturally, people have gone straight to he's been popped for the steroids or whatever, and now he's not knocking people out. And they're obviously going to put two and two together and make assumptions and that kind of thing. So I think he's got a lot of hurdles to overcome. Hopefully, we'll start seeing him in with bigger names, and he might step up to the plate or be competitive with them at the very least. You just mentioned before, Alex, that he's going with Tank on social media at the moment. What can you tell us about that? That seems very random.
Yeah.
Oh, was it Haney or both of them?
Well, both, man. First, it was Haney. They were asking where the power was, and Haney said that it was, still in a syringe. Bill Haney was there at the press conference, showed a lot of respect to the Benn. I don't blame the Haney's trying to get that fight, because they've been talking about going to 147, fighting Mario Barrios. I think I said it before. Hottest name at welterweight. Everybody wants a shot at Mario Barrios. But yeah, man, if I was Haney, if I'm really trying to do that, you can get that scalp. I think Benn is very beatable for the style of Haney. It's just, just making sure you're not hit by those shots, because whatever you want to say about Benn's skills, I still think he does pack a punch. It's just, maybe, a little crisper on the technique and better setups to where, you don't see the shots coming, because those are the ones that really hurt you, put you down and put you out. But Tank, man, talking his smack, saying he'll fight Conor, things that, same thing, basically, the power ain't really there. Conor Benn's calling him a midget, getting Eddie Hearn involved. And Tank is saying, all right, Eddie, send the contract. Even Errol Spence went there, and someone made a mention about the lack of power, and he put an egg emoji and then put exactly. And Conor Benn, wants to fight him as well. So listen, you can say what you want about Conor Benn, but like I said earlier, he's a name in boxing, and you see people want the fight, and he makes it seem like he wants it as well. Conor Benn, like I said, get your shit together. Show everyone you're the fighter that you believe you are, and one way to do that is get in the ring fast as possible. He mentioned April. Let's see.
Yeah.
And I'll just add that Mario Barrios is the name you call out and fight when you don't want to fight Boots Ennis.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, like you say, you know, people are queuing up to have a go at him and fight him, and he's more than happy to get it back, at least on social media. So yeah, interesting to see where all of that pans out from here. Plenty of things to keep an eye out for. So excellent stuff. Okay, was there anything on the undercard of that one that you wanted to mention of interest? Austin Armour Williams got a decent win over Mumbayasa. Alex, do you want to give us some verdicts on that?
It was a late replacement. I was supposed to fight Conor Coyle. That was a decent matchup. They find this guy 10-0, 7 KOs. Like I said before, Ammo, I want to see him in bigger fights. 160's wide open. The way he fought this fight was insane. Literally fighting on the back foot, just moving laterally, being swift, but got a beautiful KO. So he gets the job done. I was upset because I had under 4.5 rounds, and he decided after I think the 4th or 5th round to finally really stand there.
Throwing.
But it was a nice KO, another one for the highlight reel. But come on, please, Emma Williams, let's get to it. I think you're a pretty decent fighter. I think you think you're the elite, and I can't wait for you to show everybody you are.
Cool, Josh. Your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I haven't been sold on Ammo largely because of the opposition. I do think that, in this contest, I was impressed in terms of the explosiveness I could see when he was really going at it. But like Alex mentioned, his opponent, despite that 10-0 record, I mean, he wasn't there to fight a great deal. He landed maybe 2 good shots, but that being said, he wasn't there to really bring it like the way you would want to see it to truly test Emma Williams. So I'm there in that camp as well. I want to actually see him in there with someone who I think, you know what, this might be a real challenge for him. And I thought the Dalton Smith fight was going to happen. Maybe that's going to be set up at some point here later down the road. But that being said, the verdict's still out, I would say. Definitely the verdict is still out. And then I'll just add also Khalil Cole, he's here out of the U.S. He's an amateur, stand out in some sense as an amateur. He had a quick KO, but of course it was against an opponent he was expected to beat. Then I wanted to mention Johnny Fisher, who I saw got him a quick KO as well. But I will say that Johnny Fisher, he seems to be really coming into himself now. He's in a lot better shape than when he first started out, and I think he'll be an interesting guy there at heavyweight here as time goes on. Just wanted to throw that out there. I like what I've seen from Johnny Fisher in his last few fights.
Yeah, I did see that one. Didn't last too long.
Yeah,
and I know that it took a bit of a crowd out there with him as well, so that was a long way to go for less than a round.
Right.
Did you want to mention anything on those two, Alex, before we move along?
Yeah, Khalil Cole, man, I think he's starting to really find a way to, find those power shots earlier than before. We saw that in the last fight against Kenmore Evans. I thought that was probably going to go to decision, and he blasted him out. And I mean, the nice body shots, got this dude out of there. This guy had a, nice low record, built up in Mexico. Ness from the Boxing Voice was trying to tell out of us that he was getting good sparring over here, so be careful. And Khalil Cole told you had to be careful about him. Great prospect. Finally, we have a guy in the higher weight classes to keep an eye on, because the U.S. is lacking. A lot of those guys, we like to tell everybody, are in other sports. But Khalil Cole, light heavyweight. Check that out. Check him out. Stay tuned, because he's getting better and better each fight. Johnny Fisher, they got him some guy from I don't even know where. Makes his U.S. debut and took care of business. That's what you want. If you are better than the fighter in the ring with you, you're a big puncher, you get him out of there. So Johnny Fisher took care of business. That's what you want to see. On to the next one.